Can you pick it up and do it? Ready? Okay. Yep, now go ahead and push it forward. This is my grandson's 1986 TRX 70 four-wheeler, and I built this for him back when he was 2. This used to be my children's four-wheeler that I bought for them probably 30 years ago. I paid $250 for it. I completely rebuilt it on this channel, and if you want to see how I did it, I'll have links. You can check it out down below. It's pretty much all original. The motor has never been apart. What we're going to be doing today is completely freshening up the motor. Might need 2 hands. Pull it straight out. There you go. Yep, now grab that wrench and loosen up that spark plug. I think you already started.
This one?
Yep. Okay, can you undo it with your fingers? That's running good. It's not wet.
Remember, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Oh.
Okay. Okay, now you've got the 2 up on the motor to do. Yep, that one.
You might be able to do it with your fingers, Colton.
Alright, now we'll remove the valve cover.
What valve cover?
That's the top part of the head.
I got it.
Then the next thing we want to do is take out this bolt here, which now allows us to pull off this cap, exposing the timing chain. And then we can take out this bolt here for the cylinder. Then we got to loosen up these 3 cam chain bolts so that we can pull the cylinder off. Not too bad, considering. A little carboned up, but not too crazy. This will be a project kind of like all on its own, so we're just going to set this aside, and then we'll get this all cleaned up as one assembly right before we put it back together. The cylinder looks really good. There's no damage in it whatsoever. She's shiny though, but no damage. None of the rings are stuck on the piston, and the piston is nice and tight. Now we're going to pull off the pull starter, so we can eventually, we're going to need to take it off anyways to keep this motor in time. You can see how I've upgraded some of the hardware to stainless steel just to make it look better. Now I'm going to remove the circlips from the wrist pin, so I've stuffed the cylinder with some paper towel just in case this clip goes flying. Now I'll just take a pair of needle nose pliers, insert it inside the wrist pin, then just kind of gently pull outwards. Check that out, guys. It had a little bit of carbon on it. That's the original piston to the bike. You can see how it says Honda right there. We'll measure the ring gap and see, we'll pull a couple rings off and see what the gap is on it. Ring end gap, top and second, 70 to 90 cc, so between 6,000 and 14 thousandths. So I took the top ring off the stock piston, dropped it down in the bore, and then squared it up. And you can see there's the gap right there. Now, if I slide this in, that's a 16 thousandths feeler gauge right there. I can just ever so gently get that in there. That is too much gap. So we're at 16 thousandths, and the maximum was 14. So we definitely have to put new rings, and probably just going to do a cylinder as well. Might as well do it all. Well, I'm kind of wondering now, guys, if this is the original piston, because you see how, although it says Honda on it, see how this is a flat piston here? There's no hump in it. According to his ad, he says this is what it should have in it for a piston to have the correct compression ratio. What I've done is I've washed this cylinder all out, looking for marks on the rings to see if it says up or down or what it says. We'll install the bottom ring first. Probably ought to coat everything with some oil as well while we're right here. We just did this to my wife's XR100, and it's real important that you walk these rings on real slow, that you don't like bend them on. You want to walk them on. And I don't see a taper in the ring groove. Nope, I don't see anything, guys, that would suggest one way or another. So probably should have measured the rings in the bore. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to have to do it right now. Oh yeah, look at that, guys. That is super tight. 10 thousandths. And you go back to the manual and you can have 6 to 14, so we're good. I couldn't see any marks on this top piston ring either, so in it goes, I guess. Got all my rings staggered. I've coated the pin with a little bit of engine oil. So I'm starting to take apart some of the intake and exhaust valves, and I want to pull out the cam because in order to replace the valve seals, we've got to get the cam out. So I'm going to mark this exhaust. Then you just take a 5/16 bolt, thread it into the end, and this will get the rocker shaft out, and I've already loosened up my rocker arm right here. Then just pull that out, and that is the shaft to which this rocks on, and we'll just stick it back through and we'll set it aside. Now we'll do the same thing for the intake. Pull the shaft out, and we can pull the rocker arm out. Stick the two together, set it aside. Then we can pull the cam out. The cam looks really nice. Hardly even any wear on it. I cleaned up the chamber a little bit, just using a brass bristle brush and some WD-40. Now we can take our valve seals out of it so we can get our valve seals in. We don't want to over compress the spring. That little shiny thing you see right at the very top in there, that's the tip of the valve stem. Now I'm just going to take a magnet, reach in, and grab the locks out of it. There we go. Pull the locks out right there. Now we'll back off the tool. Probably just do one at a time rather than pull both valves out. Push the valve out. There it comes. See, it's got a little bit of carbon on it. Now this shop manual says not to lap the valves on this, so we're not going to lap it. The ones we just did recently, the shop manual said to give it a very light lap, and that's what we did, but we're not going to do it for this because it says not to. So using a pick tool, I picked this out, and now here is your valve seal right here. One side that is like, I think, concave, if that's the right word, then one side that sticks up. The part that sticks up is going to be facing up. You know, I'm actually going to use a little bit of dab of grease to put inside there to hold it. Put a little dab of grease inside here. And again, the part, you see how that's shaped like that? The part that's facing humped up, you want it facing up. Then I'm just using a little piece of metal to push that in there. So now you've got that inside there. Now we're going to gently lower this back onto that valve stem, or that valve guide, I should say. So I've just gently wire brushed with a brass bristle brush this valve. It looks good. This is the intake valve, and I've checked it to make sure there's no burrs. And if you feel a little burr on it, you can just take a little piece of steel wool and just gently clean it off at the valve stem right at the head of it, because you want to make sure when you slide this valve stem through your valve seal that you don't mess it up. So we'll put a little tiny bit of grease on it, or even a little bit of motor oil would do it too. And then your inner and outer springs go on. And then just use your valve tool and put your valve spring compressor on it. Now just slowly back it off. This was the exhaust, because I marked them. And you just have to make sure on this dowel that the threaded part is facing out. Lube it up good. You got to push them past these holes right here so you can get the dowels down through for the head. And we can just about set our valve lash too, right here, with the valves facing down with no pressure on any of the lobes. Set your intake and your exhaust valves for 2/1000ths of an inch, and then snug it down and you're good. This area right here, you see that? A gasket goes right in that port, and this new kit with this cylinder didn't come with a new gasket. That's this gasket right here that I pulled out. You can see how it's kind of flat, and this would be the original gasket, so I wanted to make sure I had that new. Plus, this top end kit didn't come with the valve cover gasket, and it didn't come with this gasket right here for the cam cover. So I ordered a complete top end gasket kit from Athena, and that is for this. If you want to see that part number, I'll hold it right there for a few seconds. And that comes with everything. Comes with a base gasket, head gasket, so I'll have a lot of spares. Got the head all cleaned up, and now we're just going to slide it onto the studs. On this cap, you'll see an arrow on it, and the arrow faces down, faces towards the exhaust. Then you can have a copper washer. Your copper washer goes there, and then the regular steel washers go in the rest of the areas. And these get torqued 7 to 9 foot-pounds, and you're alternating how you tighten these up. Crisscross pattern. Setting the cam chain timing on this actually wasn't too bad. What you want to do is make sure you get the motor up to top dead center so your piston's all the way up. Then if you look inside this inspection port, you're going to see a T. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard. A T, and then there's an F. So there's the F. There's the T. It's hard to hold it there. And you get that T lined up with this notch right here. So when that T is lined up with that notch, it's at top dead center. You're going to align this O up with this notch on the case. So with that on T in there, that lines up perfectly with that. So now I know it's perfectly in time. And if you guys want to know the torque specs, there you go. Now we got to install the cam chain adjuster into the underside of the motor. That's pretty straightforward. Goes in just like this with the black end facing up. This part of the spring fits into this plunger area, and that's all there is to it. Push it up in there. Alright, it's all back together now. I've got the exhaust on it, spark plug in it. Everything is torqued down and tightened, the intake boots on it. This has been sitting for so long. The gas in this was actually 3 years old, and the gas had gone bad. It actually stinks. It smells like varnish. So I replaced the fuel lines on it while I was right here. So the carburetor is completely drained of fuel, so it's probably going to take a minute for it to get fuel up to it. Choke is on. Switch is on. Three. Sounds like one of the valves got to be adjusted in there. Has to be the valves because it wasn't making that noise before. No smoke, which is nice. I'll let it cool back down. You can't adjust the valves until it's completely cold, so I'll let it cool down and then I'll adjust the valves. To get you up to speed, that knocking was not the valves. It's been probably 3 weeks since I just said those words. I ended up taking it all apart. I measured up the cylinder, and come to find out, the cylinder and the piston had too much clearance. So I took it apart, sent it back to the person that I bought it from. It happened to be an oversized cylinder, so they gave me an oversized piston, and we put it all back together, and then it smoked like a chimney. I've had this apart probably 5 or 6 times now, and every single time I throw it back together, it smokes like crazy. I've put all new valve seals in it. I've put another set of valve seals in it. I've put all new gaskets in it. I've just replaced everything. Finally, I went out and bought a cylinder, piston, head, everything. Everything from here forward is all brand new. It's aftermarket, but it's new. Cylinder, piston, piston rings, everything, head, valves, everything, you name it. This is going to be the first time starting it up. I have no idea why it was smoking. I even took the rebuild kit apart. I put the stock cylinder back on it and then put the stock piston in it with new piston rings, put it all back together, and it still smoked. I tore that back apart, put the aftermarket cylinder back in it, put the aftermarket piston back in it, put the rings back on it again, so that's like 3 piston changes, put it all back together, and it still smoked. Tore it all back apart, put new valve seals in it, smoked again. Ordered OEM Honda valve seals, tore it all back apart, put the Honda OEM valve seals in it, it smoked that time. That's when I decided, as one last ditch effort, to just buy this whole kit and see if this was going to cure it. Here's the original OEM head, along with the original OEM piston that's in here. And all of this stuff is fine, actually. It actually measured up pretty good. It could be reused. While I was in there, I ordered a OEM timing chain and put a new timing chain on it. Here's the cylinder that I bought. This cylinder is aluminum, and this is the one that's oversized. I'm not using this one. This is the OEM head. I don't know what the issue is. Here's the piston. I don't know if you can see that. 25 over. That belongs with that cylinder. So yeah, we're going to give it a try right now. Start it up for the first time with everything all new going forward, and we'll see how it runs. Hopefully this thing doesn't smoke, because if it does, I have no idea. I'm kind of just going to be lost. Turn the gas on. Turn the choke on. Turn the switch on. Alright, here it goes. First pull, guys. Wow! Wow, that was first pull, swear. That was not even like planned. I can't believe that thing just started. It is smoking a little, but that could be the everything burning off, maybe. Smoke's starting to go away. I don't know. We'll see. gonna fix it, guys. Ah, that did it, finally. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been just going bananas trying to figure out what's wrong with this thing, and I still don't know. Motor sounds really good, guys. The one thing that I really liked about this head setup, and I'll leave a link to all this stuff that I got here. The one thing I like about this head setup is that the camshaft is actually in roller bearings, which is pretty unreal. The existing cam over here is just precision slid in, so. Ha! That's awesome. We fixed it, guys. It's it, done. No smoke, look at that. And when I say it was smoking before, guys, it was just sitting here chugging along and just billowing black smoke out of it. I put multiple sets of valve seals on it. I kept ordering different valve seals. I even ordered OEM valve seals because the head is actually OEM. Let me show you in the package. I mean, look, there's a valve seal there. There's a couple at the bottom. There's another one over there. I mean, I've tried everything. I'm using all Honda parts. So, I don't know. I have no idea what happened. The kit that came with it came with these valve seals. These aren't even the ones, but I don't know. No idea, guys, what caused it, but she's running good now. It's all back together. Ah, what a good feeling. And it's also a good feeling that it started first kick. How cool is that? This thing's a 1986, and as of right now, it's year 2024. So how old does that make this thing?
The number of years from 1986 to 2024 is 38 years.
I am super thrilled that this is done. So I don't really know what to tell you guys. I'm almost kind of like leaning on right now. If you're going to freshen up the top end of your motor, I almost feel like you're better off. Oh, and this is cast iron too. The original cylinder was cast iron, and this aftermarket cylinder was also cast iron. This one that I got from an aftermarket company, this cylinder was aluminum. So I would almost recommend to just buy all of it. This head came complete with the valves in it. Everything was installed. Everything. The only thing I had to install in it is I had to take my exhaust studs out of my other head and put them into this. That's it. Everything else was just bolt up. I set the valve lash while it's set right on the bench. 2000s intake, 2000 exhaust. Like I said, this cylinder is cast iron. This seems like a really good kit, guys. And if I was you and you had one of these rigs, I would just say, buy the cylinder, piston, and head. I bought this as a complete kit, as a complete setup. It wasn't a whole lot of money, and I'm glad I bought it this way. It was actually getting to the point, guys, that I thought about just putting myself one of those Piranha motors in this, but I didn't really want to go that route. I kind of want to keep it stock. I mean, this thing is pretty much all stock. The bottom end's never been apart, other than some of the bolt upgrades that I've done like this. And lucky for me, look what I just found. This was one of the few things that I was missing on this bike that somebody had taken off before me, and that's the original toolbox for it. And I don't know if it'll start first pull or not. It seems like I have to give it a little bit of gas, so I probably got to do some carb adjustments, but here we go. Yeah. Let's start right up, first pull. Motor sounds nice and quiet. Listen to it, guys. Sounds really good. This one has the automatic chain tensioner on it, too, underneath that we probably showed already. Seems to be good and responsive. Like I said, no smoke. Super happy about that. But yeah. So wicked throttle responsive, guys. Look, I mean, no flat spots. Doesn't choke out on itself. So yeah, I'll do a few heat cycles on this. You want to make sure that we got air blowing over the motor because this is just only air cooled. The head bolts I've torqued to 9 foot-pounds. This thing's going to give years and years and years of more trouble-free service for my grandkids. And as of this video right now, guys, my daughter just had our 3rd grandchild. Her name's Violet. They're all going to be bombing around on this. So I got Colton, Ruth, and Violet. Be sure to come back for more, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching, and if you like these types of videos, please like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. See ya.